Good morning. I'm Ruthi Rajan, Deputy Editor of the Oath Legal Magazine. Thank you for joining the Oath webinar series. This morning, our webinar is in association with the law firm PwC Legal Middle East. The topic we're covering this morning is strategy, succession, and sustainability, recent developments for family businesses in the GCC. Succession planning and the transfer of ownership to the next generation has led and will continue to lead to family disputes if the right legal structure is not in place. Hence, governments in the GCC and the UAE in specific are introducing changes to the rules governing family-owned businesses. In this webinar, speakers Nora Al Mohammed and Norlisa Hanlon-Rossley will cover the recent legislative developments and trends in relation to family-owned businesses in the UAE. They will focus on new laws in the UAE, new developments that affect the corporate structure of family-owned businesses, new trends on dispute resolution in the GCC. I would like to introduce our speakers. Nora Al Mohammed, she is the head of Family Business Legal and Corporate Structuring at PwC Legal Middle East. Nora has significant experience in advising family businesses and GCC governments on legal aspects and legislations relevant to the family-owned businesses. Noralisa Hanlon-Rossley is a senior associate corporate at the firm. She is a qualified UK solicitor. Her focus is on structuring of family-owned businesses. She has assisted many clients in the region with their succession planning and corporate structure. Nora and Noralisa will lead the session for the first half, and this will be followed by the Q&A session. There is also an option on the right side of your panel on both the laptop and the phone to type and send in your queries. We have received some questions from you already, and our speakers will aim to cover these questions within the time allotted for them. As it's a session that's scheduled for 1 hour, we request you to send in queries that are relevant to our discussion today. Over to you both. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank the Oath for inviting us to this event, and also thanks to all of you for dialing in. Hope that you and your families are doing well. Norlisa and I will take you through an overview of family business in the UAE. We will cover the existing legal framework, the proposed federal UAE Family Business Law, dispute resolutions, and finally, we will shed some light on the corporate structures that are commonly adopted by family businesses. Family businesses play a critical role in the UAE economy, contributing around 85% to the region's non-oil GDP and employing a substantial percentage of the regional workforce. The family business in the Middle East began as entrepreneurs 60 to 70 years ago and have over the years diversified their business and created successful conglomerates. Most of these families are in the second or third generation and will undergo generational change in the next 5 to 10 years, with huge wealth being transferred to the next generation. Our surveys show that only a small percentage of family businesses survived beyond the third generation. So continuity is therefore a major concern. If the generational transfer is handled well, then it will promote growth, stability, and create more employment opportunities. However, if handled badly, then it could result in fragmentation of family businesses. The process of this transition is really led by two key elements, being the laws applicable to family business and the legal framework, and the succession planning and corporate structures. Norlisa first will take us through the existing legal framework, and then we will move to the proposed law.
Thanks, Nora. So with the transition between generations being a vital concern for family businesses, it is imperative that the legal framework in the region be comprehensive enough to support these transitions. To understand the current environment for family businesses and to set the scene, we will briefly set out the 3 key laws currently available in the UAE that are relevant to family businesses. Firstly, let us look at the Abu Dhabi Family Business Law, which was introduced early this year. Abu Dhabi's new family business law introduced a definition for family businesses, where those who qualify under the definition benefit under certain rules, regulations, and incentives. It also permits family businesses to prevent the sale of shares to persons outside of the family business, as prior agreement is required before a shareholder can sell to a third party. This law is a great step in the right direction for family businesses in the UAE, as it recognizes the importance for family businesses play in the region. However, how the law is implemented in practice remains to be seen. Moving on to Dubai, the current Dubai's family ownership law, introduced in 2020, provides for the common ownership of the family over property. This allows family members to enter into a legally binding and notarized contract, the family property contract, that provides for the collective ownership and administration of family-owned property for the benefit of family members who are party to the contract, as well as their successors. However, while the law deals with the collective ownership of the family over property, it does not regulate the relationship between family members, which is what we would require from a family business law. We also note that we have not seen this law be adopted in practice to a large extent by family businesses. Another law that family businesses can use, but is not as well known, is the Waqf law in Dubai. For those who are not familiar, a Waqf is a Sharia-compliant endowment where the asset cannot be sold, gifted, or otherwise transferred. However, the revenues generated from investing, managing, or operating the asset may be used for the purposes of the Waqf. For your reference, the Waqf law in Dubai is applicable to all endowments existing in Dubai established by Muslims or non-Muslims. The reasons a family may wish to implement a Waqf structure is due to the advantage of a Waqf being sustainable for both beneficiaries and the economy. This is because a Waqf is intended to survive after the death of all of the family's heirs, whereby the Waqf will revert to the state and be used for the benefit of the public. However, we have seen few families utilize this structure, as most families wish to keep the business for the benefit of their heirs. In addition, due to the current Waqf law not having a governance or dispute resolution framework, the uncertainty of how Waqfs work in practice limits families adopting the legal form. Lastly, we want to just briefly comment on the new companies law introduced in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. A significant change to the companies law are provisions beneficial to family businesses. In particular, Article 11 of the new KSA companies law introduces the concept of family charters or partner agreements into the law as legally binding. These agreements can also be drafted within the Articles of Association of the family business. This is particularly advantageous for family businesses, as private agreements that regulate the relationship between family members is now legally enforceable, whereas previously it was not. While this provides family businesses the opportunity to legally regulate the relationship between the members, we note that the implementing regulations of the law have not yet been published. As such, we will need to adopt a wait-and-see approach to understand how the KSC authorities will recognize the law in practice. We will also need to understand whether the notaries in KSA will accept any amendments to the articles that include provisions from family charters, as historically they were hesitant to accept any alterations. From what we can see then, the current legislative framework is moving in the right direction, but it remains to be seen how the new laws will be implemented in practice. You will have noticed that other than Abu Dhabi, there's not yet significant legislation for the regulation of family businesses within the UAE. However, we understand this is likely to change with the proposed federal family business law. I'll now pass it on to Nora to discuss this exciting new law.
Thanks, Nolisa. It's definitely exciting, and the federal UAE Family Business Law is expected to be introduced by end of September. We anticipate that the law will have a positive impact on family-owned businesses. The UAE government is committed to the growth of family businesses. And for that purpose, they took into consideration the feedback of such businesses and the key challenges faced by them. The new law is one of many initiatives that the UAE government is considering to grow the family business. Just yesterday, the Ministry of Economy announced the launch of Thabat program that aims to double the family business contribution to the GDP to $320 billion by 2032. So back to the new proposed law, what are the key developments that we expect the new law to bring? The first aspect is the introduction of the ability of shareholders to have protocols or shareholders agreement. The founders or the shareholders may conclude now one or more agreements to regulate the relationship between each other and with the business, including the manner in which their heirs will join the company, whether in their personal capacity or through a company they incorporate for this purpose. The shareholders will be permitted to have their own set of rules to regulate governance, management, work policy, employment policy for family members, distribution of profits, disposition of shares, etc. The family agreement or the charter or the constitution shall be binding, and it may be part of the company's memorandum of association, which makes it really binding to also and enforceable against third parties. Of course, provided that these rules are not against the applicable laws. The second aspect that we expect the law to bring is the ability of shareholders to have different classes of shares. The Commercial Companies Law, the CCL, does not offer the option for shareholders to have different classes of shares in context of limited liability companies. Granting LLCs the right to have different classes of shares assists with the succession planning, as the family can differentiate the rights of shareholders, example, voting and non-voting rights. Further, it provides flexibility for family members that are reliant on dividends from the business. They may have preference shares, for example, which may have limited voting rights but carry a preferential right to receive a fixed dividends annually. The third aspect, is the exit of shareholders, and we see a lot of families struggle when it comes to exit of one of the family members or shareholders. In the context of limited liability companies, when a shareholder is considering an exit, shares must first be offered to the existing shareholders according to the CCL. However, the CCL does not provide details on the mechanism of such exit transactions. We believe the new law will take into consideration the details of such exits. A feature that we expect to see is the buyback of shares, whereby the company acquires its own shares from the exiting shareholder. Although the principle is mentioned currently in the existing CCL, but it is not really applicable in practice from a regulatory perspective, or at least we didn't see it happening in practice. We also expect that the law will come up with a formula in which the business is valued when the sale is happening within the same family or when we have a company buyback case. Also, we're looking forward to see the details on how the company will finance such a buyback and what are the payment plan for that. We're waiting to see further details in the law definitely.
Right. So following on from Nora, the fourth change that we expect the proposed federal family business law to cover is providing family businesses with specific benefits and advantages as a result of their registration as a family business. So at present, family businesses are not treated as its own category of business in the UAE. Instead, they are subject to the same fees and taxes as other businesses. We anticipate that this will change with the proposed federal family business law in the UAE. Family businesses will be encouraged to register as a family business to benefit from waivers of fees and taxes that may have hindered restructuring plans in the past. So, for example, the Dubai Land Department currently charges a fee of 4% of the property value when any property is transferred. However, if the transfer is intragroup, it may be regarded as a gift and be subject to a reduced fee of 0.125% of the property value. Although this remains at the Dubai Land Department's discretion and is determined on a case-by-case basis. We are hopeful that with the proposed federal family business law, these taxes and transfer fees for family businesses will be waived to provide a more attractive environment for family businesses and encourage them to register, but we will wait and see. Moving on to the fifth change, we expect that the proposed federal family business law in the UAE will be similar to Saudi Arabia, in that it will allow the tailoring of articles of association according to the needs of the family. At present, we find that any changes to the Articles of Association in the UAE is met with resistance from the notaries, as they do not allow much variation from the template or accepted form. With the proposed federal family business law, we anticipate that family charters and shareholders' agreements will be able to be enshrined in the Articles of Association to allow families to regulate the relationship between the family members according to their own private agreements. However, as Nora previously mentioned, this is dependent on the collaboration of local authorities, such as the public notaries, to be flexible and accept these tailored articles. As long as the tailored articles are not against applicable laws and are in service to the objectives of the family, we are hopeful this will not raise any issues. Although whether the authorities and legislation collaborate is an area we will watch closely. So another area that we're hoping the proposed federal law will improve is potential conflicts, which, as we are sure you are aware, is a major challenge for family businesses. Nora will now discuss how disputes could be expected to be handled in the proposed new legislation.
Thanks, Lisa. Probably the biggest development that we are waiting the proposed new law to come up with is to have a dedicated dispute resolution platform. It is expected that the new family business law will legislate for the establishment of an official committee or authority to deal with dispute resolutions with the family business nature. The details of the forum and the composition of it is still not clear. However, we believe that the forum will include experts not only with a legal background, but also industry experts. The impact of conflicts on the family wealth can be very serious and can destroy successful family businesses. Unresolved conflicts between family members usually lead to the destruction of the family business in terms of reputation and structure as it falls apart into smaller, less effective units. Disputes also have a negative impact on the family harmony and relationships. As family members start fighting with each other, the family cohesion and harmony is negatively affected. These conflicts end up in family members not only leaving their family business, but sadly their families as well. Larissa, probably go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Another impact is the potential freezing of assets and family wealth. We have all seen family disputes in the Middle East ending in courts with strict rules being implemented on the management of the assets subject to the dispute. In certain cases, the assets of the businesses could be frozen until a judgment is awarded. Therefore, we always advise our clients to have a more proactive approach and measures in relation to dispute resolutions, to arrive at a binding decision to which the shareholders will have to adhere. Some of these measures are of a legal nature, and some are more relevant to family business segment nature and culture. This is, of course, challenging for us as lawyers, as we have to deal with such terms delicately and with deep understanding of the culture of our region. Some of these proactive measures, for example, are first, probably creating rules that govern the relationship between family members, often referred to as family constitution, which is in line with the proposed new family business law. Creating a family constitution is at the heart of building family business sustainability and success. The best time, of course, to create such rules is at the time of harmony. Families need also to create a formal corporate governance structure, a professional board of directors, and to generally encourage transparency and accountability. It's important also to include the terms that they agree, that shareholders agree on in their family constitution in a legally binding documents, such as shareholders agreement or the constitutional documents of the companies. It's also important to create a forum whereby family members can air the differences and hopefully resolve them in an amicable and confidential manner. Special committees can be created with independent external advisors who are respected by the family and who can bring objectivity and an independent voice. Finally, it is important to agree on a conflict resolution mechanism. In family businesses, emotions are sometimes quite high, which makes it difficult to resolve issues in an effective way. The use of such an impartial approach provides a neutral forum in which parties to the dispute can discuss their differences without being intimidated. The process then becomes more structured than ordinary negotiation, and the results are often more sustainable. With that, we conclude on the dispute resolutions, and we will move to some adopted corporate structure that we are seeing or we advise our clients to adopt. Given the importance of the contribution of the family business sector to the UAE economy, it is crucial to ensure the sustainability of these businesses. It is important, therefore, to design the right corporate structure that transfers the vision of the shareholders and family members from being just a vision and put it into action. There is no one structure that fits all, as family dynamics and nature of the business vary. The right structure is the one that has the right balance between ensuring the growth and sustainability of the business while being able to accommodate the vision and the specific wishes to each of the family members. There are other factors that we consider when designing a structure, such as the application of Sharia, the age of the heirs, the representation of board members, ring-fencing the liability of shareholders, etc. Our job here is to find a legal structure that takes several elements into consideration, also such as the ownership of real estate, the ownership of the IP, the operating model. All of that contribute to the right design. So we will take you through some example of some structures, and we have here on the screen the first option. The first structure is relatively a simple structure. The shareholders, as you can see, they own their shares in the holding company in their personal capacity. The holding company in its turn owns the operating companies. The role of the holding company here is the key to create the shield between the operation and the business and the shareholders. This structure allows good governance to be in place as the business is run by the board at the holding company level. Also, the holdco will be able to have consolidated accounts, which will increase the borrowing capacity of the business and replace the personal guarantees that expose the shareholders to personal liabilities by corporate guarantees. What is not great, though, about this structure is that the shares of the holding company are owned by family members through their personal capacity, which may expose the family business to inheritance issues. This exposure may affect the operating companies, as any distribution of the estate will occur on the holding company level directly, which may in turn have an impact on the operating companies. Some families with such structure usually enter into shareholders' agreements to regulate their governance, authority matrix, composition of the board, exit of shareholders, and valuation of business in such cases. Now, Lisa, do you want to go to the second structure?
Great, thank you, Nora. So developing the structure discussed by Nora, a second structuring option that we commonly see family businesses adopt is legal ownership through individual corporate vehicles. So compared to option one, this is a more sophisticated structure, as you can see from the diagram. The main difference is the addition of another corporate layer, where each family owns their shares in the holding company through their own corporate vehicles, effectively becoming a family branch LLC that represents different branches of the family. With an additional corporate layer, the family benefits from the following. First, the distribution of the estate occurs at the individual corporate level rather than the holdco level as in option 1. This avoids any inheritance issues impacting the operating companies, which protects the business from being disturbed. Second, family members are able to accommodate their own personal wishes for their respective branch of the family in the management of their individual corporate LLCs. This provides an environment where an authority matrix relevant to each branch can be implemented. Lastly, the number of shareholders of the holdco will be limited as new heirs will become shareholders in their respective branch company rather than at the holdco level. This avoids the proliferation of shareholders at the holdco level, which is a common challenge that family businesses face during transitions to new generations. Of course, we do want to flag that while this structure offers many benefits, it does require additional incorporation costs, ongoing compliance, and maintenance costs to implement these new corporate vehicles, as they need to be created and maintained. However, this is a structure we see many family businesses implementing, as the advantages, as discussed, from a governance and succession planning perspective are substantial. Moving on to the third and final structuring option. Option 3 structure is similar to option 2 in that we have an additional corporate layer. However, unlike option 2, the structure is based on beneficial ownership rather than legal ownership through the introduction of a trust foundation vehicle. So this is because families have a beneficial right to the income and/or capital of the foundation trust assets, depending on what is stipulated in the foundation charter trust deed. The advantages of a beneficial structure are as follows. The structure helps minimize underlying family conflicts, as the constitutional documents of the trust foundation includes provisions to resolve disputes, as long as the right governance is drafted from incorporation. For example, a foundation's council can regulate disputes internally if drafting is correctly done in the charter. The structure also protects shareholders from the liability attached to personal guarantees, as assets owned by the trust foundation is owned by the trust foundation rather than the individuals. As such, the assets will not be considered as part of the estate of the relevant family member in the case of any creditor claims. Another advantage is that it keeps the family business within the family, as it is very difficult to sell a beneficial ownership in a family-owned business to a third party, as the lack of legal ownership makes the sale less enticing. Last but not least, a foundation trust structure helps manage geopolitical risks, as assets owned by trusts or foundations are likely to be out of scope for such conflicts. However, we should note that the disadvantage of this structure is that the beneficiaries have beneficial and not legal ownership of assets. We have witnessed that families are not as comfortable with this approach, as they believe they lose control of the management of the assets, as this will be managed according to the constitutional documents of the Trust Foundation. In terms of how the structure applies in the UAE, we note there is not a robust framework for trusts and foundations on the mainland, and so families pursue a free zone trust or foundation to implement these structures. We see particular focus on the Dubai International Financial Center, DIFC, or Abu Dhabi Global Markets, ADGM, as the main jurisdictions to set up these structures. This is because these free zones are established with strong reputations globally for their common law systems, which makes them reliable and transparent. Families may also go with a hybrid approach of each of the options, which Nora will expand upon.
Thank you. As you've seen, we went through the standard structures that are available for the shareholders. However, more sophisticated or probably hybrid structures can be put in place subject to the maturity and the needs of the business. We can see, for example, we can introduce or create a family office, or adding subholding companies for each business cluster when we have a diversified business, for example, or probably create separate separate corporate vehicles that are suitable for long-term and short-term investments. We also need to take into consideration if the family have an objective to go listed in the future. So the structure should be flexible enough to allow them to do that. So we looked at the key elements of the proposed family business law, the key challenges faced by family businesses, the dispute resolutions, and the commonly adopted corporate structure by families. As mentioned earlier, there is no one size fits all. It must work for the family, for their values, and for their purpose. PwC Legal is one of the very few law firms in the region that have a dedicated family business legal practice. We work alongside our colleagues in tax, accounting, and governance and other lines of service to add value to our clients by providing a well-rounded legal advice that takes the commerciality of the family business into consideration and while keeping their values and culture maintained.
Thanks, Sarah. So to everyone joining us today, we hope that was an informative session. We would like now to answer any questions you may have based on what we discussed. We understand a few of you sent questions beforehand, and so we'll answer a few of those now. So a question that we received previously, what are the three biggest challenges family businesses in the UAE and GCC face?
Yeah, I think we've touched on these in our presentation, but let me conclude to the three main challenges. The first one, I would say, the lack of legislation and framework, and hopefully we're getting there with the new developments that we are seeing in the laws in the UAE and KSA and in the wider region. Dispute resolutions is definitely a challenge, and I guess having a platform that is dedicated for disputes with family business is gonna help a lot. The third challenge is the succession planning and the transfer of ownership and management from the existing generation to the next generation. And it requires educating the new generation of the values and the vision of the founders, but at the same time prepare them to face the future challenges.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Another question we received is it better to set up a trust or a foundation or a will for secure succession for non-Muslims?
Okay, this is a bit different. The foundation and trust are very similar in nature. They are corporate vehicles. I think the key difference between them is the level of control that the founder can practice over a foundation or a trust. A will is a bit different. It's a tool rather than being a corporate structure. The GIFC and ADGM and the free zones basically that are following the common law, they have enhanced regulations around wills, and we've seen a lot of our non-Muslims clients adopting such a legal framework.
Great. And then the final question from our pre-received questions, would you set up a family office in the ADGM or onshore?
I'm not sure onshore is yet ready for family offices. So far, what we are seeing in the UAE, and it is now considered as a hub actually for family offices for the Middle East and also internationally. The move is toward the GIFC and ADGM because, as we mentioned, it follows the common law. They have clear guidelines and rules around the family offices. So probably we hope to see that similar regimes onshore soon.
Great, thank you, Nora. So I believe those are all the questions. We haven't received any live ones, so we hope we had a very informative session then. We made ourselves very clear. So thank you, Nora. Thank you for your answers, and thank you to the Oath for allowing us to spend time with you all today. I hope we were able to shine a light on some of the developments in the region, as well as common issues that family businesses are currently facing. So as you can see, it is a very interesting time for family businesses. We are looking forward to seeing how these changes will be implemented in practice And with that, Noor and I conclude our session. Thank you from both of us, from our PwC offices, and please feel free to reach out if you have any further questions or want to know more about this exciting practice area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora and Norlisa, for your practical insight on the latest developments and trends with regard to family businesses in the UAE and wider GCC region. Several interesting takeaways for our attendees today. If the delegates have any further questions, please do reach out to the speakers directly, or you can even send us the questions and we'd be happy to forward it to them. Our sincere thanks to the firm PwC Legal Middle East for leading the discussion. To Clodagh at the firm, thank you for your help in organizing the session. And also to my colleagues at Niche Publishers, and especially to Sandhya and Nisha, co-organizers of this session, for your support this morning. A recording of the webinar will be available on the Oath Magazine's website. Thank you once again for joining us this morning. I wish you good health and a wonderful week. God bless. Thank you all. Thank you to the speakers, and we'll end the webinar for all now. Thank you.
Thank you.